Guys, it's Kate and I am back with another fun watercolor video. So I wanted to do, I don't know, something kind of cute today and simple and fun. So I got out the Kuretaki watercolor palette. This is the Art Nouveau one. And I really enjoy it because you can use it as a watercolor and a gouache. But I wanted to do just some simple little flowers and lily pads. Very sketchy. I'm kind of going through with my number 2 pencil, and I'm working on B watercolor paper today, and it's taped down. It's 140-pound cotton paper. And I'm just sketching out some very simple shapes with lily pads and the flowers. And I'm going to do it almost like a top-down view. Well, exactly like a top-down view. And first I'm going to go in and wet down my entire paper. I'm working with my pretty thick quill brush, and I'm just going in and painting around all of my elements because I'm going to do my water first. And I want it to be nice, blendy water, kind of with a two-tone look. So I am definitely making sure my paper is wet, but I'm just avoiding painting over my lily pads and flowers so that I don't have a lot of bleed into the areas where I don't want the paint to go. So I grabbed a couple of different shades, and basically I'm just alternating, getting them blended together, making sure I get paint in all the little creases around the flowers and everything. And I'm just going to let that all spread together and just turn into a nice little surface for my flowers and pads to sit on. And it's just going back and forth. I'm working from the pan and putting on some fairly heavy color and working very wet so that it fills out that whole area and just looks very flowy and nice. And then once that is finished, I'm just going to go ahead and let that dry so I can start in with my second layer. So here we are all dry, and I'm going to go in and start with the lily pads next. And I grabbed my smaller quill brush for that, and I'm working wet on dry now. And for this first one, I don't know, the lily pads kind of got away from me a little bit. I put down those veins and it was just too wet, and I did not like that at all. So I wiped up some of it, and I'm going to end up revisiting that one later, but I'm just kind of experimenting how I want the pads themselves to look. So I really like that base green color. And on this one, I changed it up a little bit to add my second color to the outside. And then I just kind of added a little bit of mottled color there. And it's a good thing I have 5 lily pads to paint because I kind of improved each one as I went along. And so they just got a little bit better. So I did the dark outline again, but this time I blotted my brush a little bit better to keep it a little drier, and then my paint stayed put a little more. But that top one, I'm going to end up adding a second coat to kind of fix that up. And so I'm just sort of continuing along, and looking back, I should have just waited and added my little leaf veins in a second coat, but I was trying to get it where it was still damp enough to spread a little bit, but not so wet that it would just spread out and either disappear and blend in or turn into something that didn't look like leaf veins at all. So it ended up working out much better when I went over the whole thing after it had dried. But this kind of added a nice little second color in the background. So while those are drying, I'm going in and starting on my flowers. And I painted a couple of layers of petals, and I wanted to make these just a nice, bright, pretty pink. So I don't know, in this palette, those pinks are just gorgeous, and it's partly because you can use this as a gouache or a watercolor. It's got a bit of white pigment in it, so you can make it pretty opaque, and you can get those really nice pastel colors even when you use it at full strength, which I really like. It's just that nice palette you can pull out when you want to get something that looks a little bit different than a traditional watercolor maybe. So I'm going in and doing the first coat with that light pink, and you'll see a lot of pencil marks here, but I end up adding some more paint down the road a bit, and now I'm going back in and doing my little veins, and those looked a lot better. And so you can kind of skip the earlier part and just go straight for the win right here. Just have some patience. And that is so hard for me. I hate waiting for stuff to dry when I just want to paint, paint, paint. But it never looks as good as when you wait when you know you should. So I really liked how the leaves ended up, but it did take going over them a couple of times. But that's why I love doing these videos. They are great for experimenting, and I can kind of share with you my mistakes and successes and things that are surprises too that turn out and were unexpected. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish putting in those veins while I'm waiting for my flower petals to dry. And then once those are dry, I'm going to add in a contrasting pink tone to darken them up a bit. So I'm kind of going between all those petals and adding a second coat and adding the darkness. And so that's going to give them kind of a fun little look too. And it's also, each coat that I add is helping to get rid of those pencil marks. I wanted to do a dark pencil so that you could see it a little bit better in the video. But if I was just doing this on my own, I would have used much lighter pencil. So while I'm waiting for that second coat to dry on the flowers, I'm going in and just adding a few little fun water ripples around the lily pads, and it just kind of hints at some water movement. And I started off with the light blue, and where I was sitting, it kind of blended into the background a little bit much. So I left that, but I also added a few little darker ripples too. And I just did the original colors that I used when we did the water background at the beginning. So I'm just kind of going back into those and using a stronger mix. And so now I'm just kind of cleaning things up. I'm adding another coat of that darker pink so that it covers up more and becomes a little bit more opaque. And I'm still trying to decide what I want to do with the flowers. And I decided to go in with a third set of petals. And I really like having the 3 colors on there. It's just, I don't know, it's a fun little easy painting, and it's just simple shapes, but it looks really cute to me. So I am going back in with that nice bright color for the front, and I'm still not done. I'm still kind of sitting there thinking, okay, what do I want to add to these? Because I'm just not feeling the flowers all the way. I think they are still missing something. And I love how punchy the dark green is over those lily pads. And so I tend to like a lot of outlines and things like that, just those nice contrasty lines in a painting or a drawing. And so originally I picked out that bright pink and I went around the outside to outline all of my petals. And that was okay, but I also wanted to add some more outline detail into the center areas. They just look a little bit messy to me. And part of it is getting that paint to be thick enough to kind of cover, because I didn't really want the transparency that much with these. I wanted that bright pop and the contrast. So I'm attempting to add another coat here, which worked pretty well. It kind of took away a little bit of that messiness and a little bit of being able to see that pencil mark in the background. But what I ultimately ended up grabbing was my cheapo Dollar Tree metallic marker, and this is like a rose gold color. And I thought it went beautifully with the flower petals. So I just went around all of them, and it really added that sort of punchy bit of contrast and outline that I thought went really well with the dark green on the leaves or the lily pads. And so I thought this kind of helped bring everything together. And then I'm adding a few dots to the yellow centers just to give them a bit of texture. And then finally some white highlights just to get that little extra pop of brightness, because the eye really, I wanted to go right to the flowers. So we'll do the close-up and you can see the whole thing completed. It was a really fun one to do. I hope you try it yourself, and until next time, keep creating.